I remember being brand new to houseplant care. I grew up in South Africa. All these amazing plants used to just grow around me and in my garden, such as Sansevieria, Euphorbia, succulents and cacti, ficus. I was so lucky to have all these plants around me. When I moved to the UK, I decided to have some houseplants and bring the plants into my space. But that meant I had to learn how to care for them. I remember feeling quite overwhelmed at times because I'm used to all these plants in their natural habitat, but now they live with me and they are my responsibility. There are some really great resources and planty YouTube channels around. I love a great planty YouTube channel, and you can learn so much from watching how other people care for their plants. But what I've realised over the years and keeping and caring for my own plants is that you can do things your own way. You don't need to do things how other people do it. If something works for you, then go for it. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 8 things that I've learned that I can adapt and flex and just do it my way. It works for me, it works for my plants, and I'm going to share those things with you. So let's get going. Number 1 is fertilizing. The general advice is that you only fertilise during the growing months. So in the UK, that would be from beginning of April to the end of October. And that is because plants do active growing during that season, during the summer months. They produce new leaves and new stems. And when they do that, we need to top them up on their nutrients to do more active growing. It doesn't mean though that plants stop growing come end of October. I find that my plants still pop up new leaves and new stems, and some still grow during the winter months. So I've recommended on my channel before, yes, fertilise for sure during the summer months and during the growing season. But if you do see new growth come up on your plants during autumn or during winter months, do continue to fertilise. It works for me, it works for my plants. If I see new growth, I won't just stop giving my plants nutrients. The best thing to do is to keep topping them up because they need it. They're going through that active growth period. It's a bit like a child growing, I think. When a child grows, you need to give them good food, you need to give them vitamins, nutrients to keep their bodies topped up and to keep them happy and growing. And I think plants are the same. So come autumn and winter, don't stop fertilizing. As long as you see new growth coming up on your plants, give it a fertilizer to top up on their nutrients. I use a liquid fertilizer. There are many different varieties and types. You get a liquid fertilizer which you mix with your water and just water as normal. You get granular types which I've used as well, which you can just pop into your soil and water as normal. I find a liquid fertilizer works really well, and I will be continuing my fertilizing come autumn, possibly into winter, because my plants are still going a bit mad. They're still growing and I want to keep them topped up on their nutrients. So do what's right for you. Don't stop fertilizing during the winter and autumn months. If your plants need it, then keep fertilizing. Number 2 is propagation. You may have also heard that you can only propagate during the summer months. For me, that is not something that I do purely in summer months. I propagate all year round. I think the advice to propagate only in the summer months is because of that same reason that plants do active growing in the summer, and when you cut them, they will continue to grow roots in water. However, I have always found that plants do continue to grow in water if you water propagate during autumn and during winter months. My business started with houseplant cuttings that I gave to people in bundles with soil packs. So I always had to propagate all year round, and it has always worked for me. So I will definitely continue to propagate all year round, despite what many others might say, because it works for me. This is completely tangled up. I've I've propagated this Hoya a few weeks ago, and it's got some lovely roots coming up. So it doesn't mean just because it's autumn and winter that those roots won't appear, because absolutely it will do. So don't stop propagating if you love propagating. Don't stop come end summer. Continue to propagate, because your plants will continue to grow. Even if you propagate a plant and don't put it into water. So for example, a jade plant like this. This is very old and very fragile, and I need to repot it. But jade, for example, I do cut my jade and I pop it into water to propagate and grow roots. However, they can be potted into soil directly without roots. If you choose to pot it directly into soil without any roots growing, they will grow as well. Plants don't fully stop growing in autumn and winter. They slow down. They do go a bit dormant. They slow down, but they don't just stop growing. So you can propagate all year round. It works for me. Try it and see if it works for you as well. Number 3 is cleaning your houseplant leaves. It's really important to keep your leaves clean, because a layer of dust can really easily accumulate on the leaves, and the plant struggles to photosynthesize by getting their energy and resources from the sun. So it's really important, and I find it really fun as well to keep the leaves clean. And I've got this microfiber glove that I just spend a bit of time to remove some of that dust. I know a lot of people like using a spray, a specific cleaning spray on leaves. However, for me, I have found that I don't need to spend money on a spray. I don't need to spend money on anything. I don't even have to buy a glove. I can use a kitchen towel or any cloth that's clean, that's lying around my house. And I do find, even sometimes if you wet your cloth with a bit of plain water, those leaves come up just as shiny and clean. So for me personally, I have found that I don't need to use a leaf spray. I don't need to use any chemicals or anything on my leaves. They come up just as well. It cleans the leaves just as well, and it does exactly the same job. So if you don't want to use a leaf spray or anything on your plants, you don't need to, because I find a simple microfiber microfiber glove or a cloth works just as well to get the job done. Number 4 is repotting. I know a lot of people would recommend to only repot during the summer months, because our plants are doing active growing, because they perhaps need a fresh soil with nutrients to keep them topped up during the summer months. However, I repot all year round, and my plants, especially some of them that are in desperate need of a repot, they thank me for it, and it doesn't do them any harm. I have quite a lot of plants, for example this Hoya, which I've had probably 6 years now in, I'm ashamed to say, the same soil, but this plant is so healthy and it's quite happy where it is. I know it needs a fresh soil. I know I won't get it done by the end of summer. We're already kind of moving into autumn. So I'm not panicking about that, because I know that I can repot all year round if I need to, especially if a plant is struggling, if a plant is root bound because the roots are popping out the bottom, if the pot is splitting, or if the plant's starting to look unhappy. I know I can repot all year round. So do what's right for you. If you think your plants need repotting in the autumn and winter times, then go for it, because they'll thank you for it. Number 5 is drainage holes in your pots. When I started my houseplant journey, I had no idea about watering. I had no idea about letting all the water run out as I water. The reason we need to let all of that water run out is because if it accumulates in the pot and it can't escape at the bottom, the roots of your plant can rot and it can kill your plant. So when I first started my houseplant journey, I remember potting a couple of plants into pots that had no drainage holes in. I used to water I used to water quite a lot, and that's also known as killing your plants with kindness, because I want to make sure it's okay. And the plant couldn't cope, the water didn't escape, and it killed my plant. I very quickly learned that it is okay to pot your plants into pots without drainage holes, as long as you can check your watering and as long as you can trust yourself not to overwater. Another great way to just lift that soil a little bit so that it doesn't sit in any water that accumulates is by putting a layer of pebbles down the bottom. Any clean pebbles or rocks or stones that you have, you can pop a little layer down the bottom, then pop your soil in and then put your plant in. That just stops the roots of the plant from sitting in any soggy soil or water that might accumulate at the bottom. So you can absolutely pot into pots without drainage holes. Just make sure that you trust your watering, that you don't overwater, but also if you want to put an extra layer of security in, then you can pop a little layer of pebbles and then your soil, because it just lifts that soil a little bit so it doesn't sit in soggy water. So you don't have to use pots with drainage in. You can absolutely pot directly into these pots with no drainage holes. Just make sure that you check your watering and don't overwater your plants. Number 6, don't feel the need to spend a lot of money on plants. I still need to do a plant room tour. I've had a few of you ask to see the rest of my plant room because I realise you've only seen the back of me. So I will definitely do a plant room tour to show you what I have in my collection. You will realise that I do not spend a lot of money on plants. I will show you a plant that I have spent a bit of money on. In fact, let me do that now and then I will talk about the rest of my plants in a minute. 1 second. So this is my variegated monstera. It has recently hit the ceiling and I've had to cut it. I've got 2 cuttings propagating in water. I spent £40 on a leaf on this original leaf here. I spent £40 and that is a lot for me. It was an unrooted leaf that I bought about 4.5 years ago. I popped it in water, it grew roots, and now I've got this beautiful plant that's hit the ceiling and I've managed to get 2 huge cuttings from it. I'm just going to put this back and then I'll finish what I want to say. But what I want to say is you don't need to spend a lot on plants. I know there's a huge temptation to buy rare, unusual, or plants that are trendy at the moment. However, for me personally, I have always found that I don't need to spend a lot of money on plants to create a mindful green space around me. Most of the plants I have in my room would be things like my Sansevieria. I'll show you my smaller one. I'm not going to attempt to get my big one up. I have your everyday favourites like a Sansevieria. I have a Tradescanthia. I have Hoya, loads of succulents, cacti, prayer plant. So very much your traditional everyday houseplants that I have in my collection. I never spend too much money on plants because I don't want to feel stressed that if I've spent a lot of money on a plant and if that plant gets pests or if the plant dies, then I just know I will feel a bit disheartened and a bit gutted that I've spent too much money on it. So for me, my whole purpose of growing my collection and having plants is to have a relaxed feel about my plants and knowing that I haven't spent a huge amount of money on them, knowing that I can still create a lovely green nature space around me without having to spend too much. I have also taken loads of cuttings from friends. I regularly host houseplant swaps, and there's some great plants that come in where we swap with the lovely houseplant community around me. So do what works for you. If you want to spend a lot of money on plants and get the latest and the trendy plants and the rare plants, then please go for it. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can start your collection by grabbing cuttings from friends and family, go to a houseplant swap event. Supermarkets do great plants. Look for reduced stock. There's so many different ways of growing your collection, and it doesn't have to be expensive. So do what's right for you. If you want to splash out on one plant or one leaf like I have done, then that's a great way just to say that I have spent a bit of money on a plant, but generally that's not my aim, and I've managed to create a lovely green space around me. Great for my mental health. I love spending time in here, and I know that I haven't spent a huge amount of money on creating what I have. Number 7, don't chase perfection when it comes to your plants. When I started my houseplant journey, I was a little bit obsessed, I would say, to keep my plants super happy, super healthy, and majority of them are. However, there are some plants in my collection that are not looking great. This anthurium, for example, I think for starters, I know it's in the wrong pot. I need to not have it in a terracotta pot because terracotta dries out really quickly. And I've got crispy tips and crispy leaves, and this plant is not looking perfect. However, I still love it in my collection, and I just think sometimes we see some beautiful plants around. I mean, you know, I appreciate the plants I'm showing you behind me. They are looking quite happy, quite healthy, but there are some plants in my collection like this one that's not looking super healthy because it needs my attention. I do have a very leggy Tradescanthia over here. Let me show you that one as well. It's very leggy. It's got some brown tips. It's got some brown leaves, but I still love having it in my collection. When you walk in a forest, there are brown leaves and tips and stems. Nothing is perfect, and we need to embrace the imperfections, because nothing is perfect. We are trying to keep up with nature when we have houseplants in our space, and it will never be perfect. So it's okay to have dead leaves. We simply clean it up and take it off. It's okay to have a leggy plant. I think for me, the main purpose is to have plants in my space. They're never going to be perfect. They are going to be wonky and brown, and some might die, but that's okay. As long as I don't spend a huge amount on them, like I've just said. But let's embrace the brown stems and the brown leaves and the ones that perhaps don't look so pretty. We can always work on making them look a little bit healthier, but it's no worries if a plant is starting to look a little bit unhappy. There is always something we can do to bring it back to life. Number 8 is to simply enjoy your plants and not stress over them. Plants should be a form of mindfulness. It should be a way to relax when you're around them. And it's about knowing there will be imperfections. Like I said, there will be brown leaves, brown stems, dying flowers, dying plants. Pests will appear, disappear, reappear again. It's just part of having plants in our collection. So my main aim to have my plants around me is to have a nice mindful space that I can come into. And I would say I definitely stressed in the beginning to keep these plants alive. But the more you get into the groove of things and learn how to care for them, and also learn to embrace the imperfections and embrace when pests appear, the more you start to relax into enjoying your plants. So Don't spend too much money on them. Embrace imperfection and just enjoy having them in your space, because for me personally, it's such a time to switch off when I come into my plant room, to water, to propagate, and just really to enjoy my plants, especially when the weather is rubbish outside. I know I still have a little bit of space inside that I can come to connect to nature indoors. So just enjoy them and try not to stress too much. I'd love to hear if there are anything similar to the ones I've just mentioned that you have learnt and adapted to make it work for you and your plants. I think there are so many different views and so many different ways of caring for houseplants. It's important to find what works for you and what works for your plants. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that you do it your way that works for you. I might even start doing what you suggest and what you recommend. I'm always up for hearing how other people are doing it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or any comments about your houseplants and your houseplant journey, please leave it in the comments below. I'd love to read. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.